Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up. Well, okay, I'm going to do a little special episode today because a couple days ago, the great Neal Adams passed away. And if you're a comic fan of my brother's generation and then mine, we're kind of 10 years apart. So on fandom, we fall on this cusp. Neal Adams is probably one of the most influential comic artists of the 70s, and the changes and the artistic shift that he was part of, incredibly important, and well loved. I'm picking one comic, one that's kind of special to me for a couple of reasons. One, it's one of the earliest ones of his I remember reading. And I don't know if my brother bought it when it came out and handed it to me, but my brother Hugh definitely handed a copy of this. Yes, it was probably something he owned or he got later. I don't know, because it came out before I remember I was reading comics, or it's just kind of the first I remember. And it's Brave and the Bold 85, cover dated September 1969. It is a team up between Batman and Green Arrow, and it is the first time that the Green Arrow appeared in his modern costume, with the goatee and the long gloves. Pretty much the Green Arrow costume that I know. When I see Silver Age or Golden Age Green Arrow stories, that's not the costume. This is the costume and the variations of it. And Neal Adams, I think of him equally with my other Green Arrow artist, which would have been Mike Grell, because I really remember reading those when it was a Green Arrow, Green Lantern. But so let's get into, we're going to go quick over this, and then I just want to talk about what I loved about Mr. Adams. All right, Brave and the Bold, 85, cover date 1969, executive editor Carmine Infantino, cover artist Neal Adams. The title is Batman and Green Arrow, The Senator's Been Shot. Writer Bob Haney, pencilers Neal Adams, inker Dick Giordano, letterer Ben Oda, editor Murray Boltinoff. The open caption of the cover is Batman and Green Arrow, the senator's been shot. When the newly voted senator of Gotham is shot before he can vote on an important crime bill, Bruce Wayne is selected to finish the rest of the senator's term during his recovery. That would be crucial. And a synopsis. When the newly voted senator for Gotham City is shot before he can vote on an important anti-crime bill, Bruce Wayne is selected to finish the rest of the senator's term during his recovery so that the crucial deciding vote for the bill will be made. Meanwhile, as Batman, Bruce attempts to find out who is responsible for having the senator shot. Along the way, he teams up with Green Arrow to bring the shooter to justice just in time for Bruce to vote in favor of the crime bill. The villain is Miklos Minotaur. Is a villain, and it's pretty much just a gang, political intrigue, shady government kind of story. It takes place in Gotham City, the Mediterranean, DC, and Star City. This is a heavily reprinted comic, so I may have seen it in one of many reprints, and I'm just going to read off a list of reprinted. Reprinted The Best of Brave and the Bold, DC Blue Ribbon Digest 23. I know I saw it in that. Showcase presents Green Arrow 1. Yeah, definitely saw it in that. Showcase presents The Brave and the Bold Batman Team Up Volume 1. Green Arrow, a 75 year celebration, 75 years, and Batman illustrated by Neal Adams. I had those two hardcovers for a while, and I sold them to make room and to pay some bills. And it was a lot. It was the covers too. It was a lot of beautiful Green Arrow. Neal Adams. This is the first time Green Arrow is the redesign of Green Arrow took place. This is just a basic Brave and the Bold team up, simple plot. A gangster wants to do some shady stuff, so he kills the senator, and Bruce is asked to fill in, and you find out Mr. Mitlos is doing shady stuff, not only in Gotham but in Star City. It's beautiful. Bob Haney could write a great comic book. Comics were simpler, and I don't mean simpler, less intense, but just simpler. That you would have 23, 24 pages. How many pages is this one? Does this little thing say? No, but it's probably 24, 25 pages. I mean, the bulk comics were longer back then. They had better page count. and you could tell a single story, and it was just an adventure story. And this one's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. Dick Giordano and Neal Adams were collaborators and mentors to many people. I know Bill Sienkiewicz was mentored by Neal Adams, as was Bob Layton. I think Bob Layton was more Giordano protege, and they were partners for many years. But this is a lot of fun comic, and a lot of Neal and Bob Haney did a bunch of Brave and the Bolds. They're great, but he also did Dead Man Specter. He was one of the pencilers on one of the great Avenger arcs, the Kree Skrull War. He does a story Inside the Vision, which is beautiful. It's where Henry Pym as Ant-Man comes back and has to save the Vision's life by traveling through his body. His Dead Man is a classic. I used to have a big, beautiful hardcover of it that he recolored it, and it was gorgeous. I think to me, it's my favorite Neal Adams work in a lot of ways. I think it's some of the best comics I've ever seen. But it's the Batman and his Brave and the Bold, the Batman he did with Denny, took Batman from short cape, cute, biff, bam, sock him, back to being the great detective, and started moving comics in a more modern tack out of the 50s and early 60s and into the late 60s, where there was a lot of social change and things got a little more serious. He did tons of covers. He did Bob Hope covers. He did tons of stuff, but he was really an important artist to me in how I read comics, because I saw them as something more that you could push the envelope. And I think him and Denny in the Batman stuff did, and I think he did in the Spectre stuff and the Dead Man. And I do think his Avengers is that little bit of Avengers he did. I had a hardcover trade of his issues of the X-Men that Roy Thomas wrote in the later of the original run, and those are beautiful. So I mean, he'll be missed. I own, a friend of mine got me the figures. I keep talking about all the stuff I used to have the statue, the action figure statues of Muhammad Ali and Superman. And if you can find the Superman versus Muhammad Ali hardcover, I think it's some of his best work. It's a beautiful piece of comic writing. You would think it would be stupid and silly, and it's not. It's a great comic book. And the only reason I didn't cover that one is because of just Brave and the Bold 85 is the one that touched my heart. I mean, we all have those artists. Is Neal my artist? No, because I think it's artists after him, influenced by him, who become mine. I'm more of that next generation, the George Perez, the Keith Giffens, the Joe Staton group. But of those 70s, and he's one of the Batman artists I think of. When I think of Batman, I think him. When I think of Green Arrow, I think of him. I think of Dead Man. There's certain characters that are his in my mind, and he was the first and the best at them. His costume design for Green Arrow is probably one of the great costumes. I mean, that design or variation of that design has lasted for 50 years. He pretty much, him and Bob Chaney, and then Denny O'Neil on the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Hard Traveling Heroes, redefined Oliver Queen and gives us the Oliver Queen we see in many incarnations since then, up and including the CW show. So I mean, he had huge impact on comics, and he'll be missed. I mean, I'm going to read the issue of this issue. I went and looked at some of the other Brave and the Bolds. I think I'm going to read some of those tonight. I've been thinking about him. I know my brother is feeling something, because I mean, Neal Adams is hugely important for him. He's one of his guys, and we're going to miss him. And he had a legacy outside of his comics. He fought for creators' rights and compensation, as he should and as they should have done, because comic creators are still not paid what they really are due from what's being made from their creations as work for hire. I'm one of those weird people. I get why you're work for hire. There are certain rules and things, but there's no reason the corporations can't share that wealth and make it a partnership And I think that's what he strove for. He's like, the artists have to have some say and some something in the game. And I think he is the beginning of that battle, to where you now see people who created books as work for hire, their name appearing, even though it wasn't in the original contract. It's they get better royalties. These are all things that his battle for creators' rights and the beginning of that movement are so important. But folks, go out, find some Green Arrow comics, some Batman, some Avengers, anything with Neal Adams, and give it a read. Remember the man. And, we're going to miss him. So I'm just going to say, go out there, be safe, be smart, and read some Neal Adams comics, okay?